All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about automatic watches versus quartz watches today in the context of a very recent video by Jay Anthony. Jay Anthony looks so sad in his most recent YouTube video. He looks heartbroken. He gives you a chronicle of how he fell in love with Seiko. He specifically fell in love with the Seiko S-A-R-B, SARB 035. He said it was a work of art, it was beautiful, changed his life. And then after about 6 months, I believe, it stopped working. Then he had a relative, a brother or something, a friend, who had a SKX 007. He had to send it back to Seiko, $150 repair. He talked about a monster that wasn't keeping proper time. And he says he can no longer recommend the Seiko brand. I've been lucky. I've never been. I've never had a Seiko that gave me a problem, but I hear about it and I sympathize. I empathize with people who have that problem. But you know what's interesting is when I look at Jay Anthony's video and I see the similar contempt in Just Bluefish videos about Seiko, I realize that he's heartbroken. And I realize that as watch hobbyists, if we can use that term, we fall in love with watches. I mean, falling in love with a watch, feeling connected with a watch is really the underpinning of our hobby. And I started thinking that it's irrational. It is irrational to have this hobby, because if it were practical, we would approach it from a practical point of view. And so I'm looking at Jay Anthony, and he has he suffered a broken heart from the SARB 035, and I started thinking, it's really not about Seiko, this broken heart. It's really about fear. Fear is your buzzkill when you're trying to fall in love with a watch. And specifically when it comes to watches, here's where the fear lies. It's not about the Seiko brand specifically, it's about the automatic watch. Automatic watches, they're just dicey. I mean, there could be quality control issues. It's not, I mean, Lee fell in love with the Omega Planet Ocean. He's no longer in love with it because it broke, and he had to send it back to the dealer, the watch dealer, and he had to keep repairing it. If your watch doesn't work, it's hard to be in love with it. And here we are as watch hobbyists, and for most of us, the love, the irrational underpinning of our hobby is connected to the automatic watch, whether it be Seiko, Omega, whatever the case may be. And that's a very dicey proposition for us. If we wanted to be practical, we would buy quartz watches. But I hear from so much of you that the quartz watch is a dead watch. It's not true art. It's not the true tradition of a watch. You are a quartz cowboy. These terms are derogatory, pejorative, dismissive, contemptuous. You know, you don't want to get the quartz watch. Here I am wearing a quartz watch, a Citizen BN 0175. I've been just doing an experiment laying off my automatic watches. Gary sends me an email, says, dude, don't wind up your watches and keep them ticking all the time. I have 5 autos in my collection. God, they all look good. I'm not totally in love with my Monster. I mean, I love the blue dial, but I'm not totally in love with the rest of it. Thinking of selling it, actually. But I've been experimenting, giving my autos a rest, because maybe there's less anxiety with quartz. Can you fall in love with quartz? I don't know. Look at this dichotomy. Maybe the automatic watch is your psycho wife. Like, it is the Angelina Jolie of watches. And maybe the quartz watch is your practical wife, the Jennifer Aniston of watches. Can you fall in love with Jennifer Aniston, or are you fooling yourself? If you marry Jennifer Aniston, is your heart still with Angelina Jolie? Now, in Jay Anthony's case, I don't think he's abandoned automatic watches per se. He talked kindly of Oris and Hamilton. So he's not abandoning autos. I'm more extreme than a lot of guys. For me, if one of my Seiko automatic watches went kaput, I don't even think it would be a matter of me leaving Seiko. It would be a matter of me leaving automatic watch. Would I be Chicken Little? The sky is falling, man. Would I be being Chicken Little? And it's so interesting because after I saw Jay Anthony's video and I watched Just Bluefish talk about some regulation accuracy problems with Seiko, I swear to God, it got in my head that you should just sell all your automatic watches and just have quartz, because if fear is killing your love of watches, then get rid of the fear, man. Fall in love with quartz. I mean, this isn't bad. The Citizen, am I in love with it? No, man. I mean, I have a higher connection with my 051, 053 Seiko. My Orient M-Force has been getting a lot of wrist time. My 065 is probably the most gorgeous watch in my collection. It's like a cyan blue Seiko. So I have five automatics. The only one I would sell would be my Monster. I almost love it. I love the dial. I'm not sure I'm in love with everything else about it. It depends on what lighting it's in, and you know how it's weird, man. I'm not in love with it all the time. Sometimes I like it. Sometimes I dig it. But I'm giving my automatics a break. So, will I personally sell all my automatics and get quartz watches? You know, an argument could be made for that. If I got snake bit by an automatic watch, I might do it. But here's the thing about me. If I were selling all my automatics and getting quartz watches for rational reasons, you know, an argument could be made to do that. But for me, I am a watch addict, and my suspicion is that if I sold all my automatic watches to get quartz watches, it would just be me creating an excuse to get more watches. Random Rob, he sold his Breitling, he sold some other, he sold his Rolex. He says, this is what I do, man. I sell watches so I can get new ones in. And I'm kind of the same way. I can't accumulate dozens and dozens of watches. It would drive me crazy. And I do like to get new watches in here to put them up on YouTube videos. And I'm also watch addicted. It is exciting to get a new watch. So I'm always looking for a new excuse to sell one of my watches. But as you know, isn't it horrible to go through seller's regret? You sell a watch and you regret. We've all been through that. So I try to balance it with that proposition as well. Tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. All right, until next time, I'm out.